past couple of days, I've been at odds with Mother Nature. There are tons of wildfires sprouting up around Colorado right now because of the high winds we've been having. It's pretty apparent when you look off into the distance just how much smoke is around. But that hasn't really slowed Bruce down much.
Whoa, little buddy.
We still have one more day of really strong winds, and these two have been coming out of their stall when it's not too terribly windy, but most of the time they've just been hanging out inside, which has left Bruce with a little bit of extra energy. The next morning, a lot of the smoke cleared out, but when I went to feed the horses, I noticed we did have a few intruders. The horses are getting a little bit more used to seeing these little creatures over close to their pens, but they still get pretty riled up about it. Thankfully, these sheep know exactly what they're supposed to be doing and run right back to the hole in the fence that they escaped from. This part of the pasture has so many old prairie dog holes. It is definitely something that I am in the process of fixing. There's still no grass growing out here. This is all weeds, so it's something that needs a pretty serious amount of restoration. It looks like the clear skies are not gonna last very long. I can already see some wildfire smoke coming in for the day. Something really exciting for today is that it is actually Scarlett's birthday. While it's not her true birthday, I did buy her at a few months old from an auction, so I extrapolated a date that would be easy for me to remember. She is now 4 years old, and physically she looks so much stronger than she did last year at this same time. As soon as I get the new arena straightened out, she is going to go back into work. Tanya has really enjoyed her new job as a garden supervisor. Every morning she insists on showing me around, and today she was pretty excited about a few tiny little sprouts coming up in one of the new beds. I've got one zucchini that's going to be ready for harvest in a few days, but other than that, I'm not seeing too many things growing very well yet. It's been extremely hot, and I think a few of the plants are really stressed with the heat and the wind. I know I mentioned in a previous video that Pete has kind of taken over the little herd of boys. He seems to split his duties with Studman most days. When there's something really exciting going on, he is typically the first to notice, and I'm pretty sure that is why the other horses moved him up in the ranks. These horses see animals all the time, but Pete is always the first one to spy a deer that's close to their pen, or if the bear is rustling around in the woods, he will definitely see it first. I almost have their new pen complete over in the hidden pasture, but I'm going to have to wait to see what happens with the smoke today. Typically, if the AQI is above 100, then I will get a migraine, and I just cannot be productive when that happens. The animals have to stay outside in this weather, but I can go inside and get a lot done in the house. I saw that big old marmot finally had her babies, and they have a little nest under this bush over by the boys. I haven't seen them going underneath the old homestead building in a while, so I think they've moved. Because the smoke was pretty thick today, I ended up driving into town and making sure our to-go bags have everything they need. Moving so many animals in case of emergency can be really tricky and does take quite a bit of planning. My husband used to work for a company that did wildfire mitigation, so we are pretty well aware of the risks. We've got crates and to-go bags for Huckleberry and all the cats. The horses are a little bit tricky because I do not have the ability to move them all at once. The fires are nowhere near close enough for us to think about evacuating yet, but this time of year there are a lot of lightning strike fires out here, and with the winds they can become very large very quickly. To get all of the horses moved out of harm's way, it would take me 3 loads with the current trailer I have. When I had my trailer made, I thought really hard about getting a 6-horse instead of a 4-horse. For the 3/4 ton truck that I have, it would really be towing the line if we were going on any really steep mountain passes or had some heavy horses inside. But in situations where I would be required to evacuate the horses, it would be nicer to do a larger load at one time. Something to think about for the future, but not in the cards at this moment. After my trip to town and getting everything in order in case we do have to evacuate, I did have a little bit of extra time left over in the day to hang out with Bruce. He has gotten very smart at our daily sessions and will come right over to the mat where I typically brush him. Sometimes he still does get a little bit too rambunctious and I have to chase him away. He still has a pretty short attention span, but he is still not even 2 months old yet. He's gotten really good at standing still to be brushed all over his body. He will let me pick up all 4 of his feet, and he is making a little bit of progress with the haltering process. Some days, Prim, I think, enjoys chasing him around and distracting me while I'm trying to work. They have quite a bit more room in the new pen setup, and they are definitely making good use of it. Depending on the day, I do think Bruce's legs are improving. He is definitely growing taller. I used to have to bend down to scratch him, and now I don't have to lean at all. He's still shedding his baby coat and is looking pretty scraggly. Having the bigger pen does make it a bit trickier for me to get their pen cleaned every day, but I'll take turns cleaning and then hanging out with Bruce, which he really seems to like. He still likes to go back and forth between pestering Prim and then coming over and pestering me while I'm trying to get the chores done. I've been trying really hard to keep Bruce an upstanding equine citizen. He is starting to learn that the world does not revolve around him. A lot of days it does take most of my willpower to not stop what I'm doing and give him a few little scratches. Here lately I've been trying really hard to ignore his shenanigans unless he goes over and stands on the mat on the ground, and then I'll come over and work with him. Sometimes, however, his persistence does pay off and I'll take a very short break to give him a few little scratches. And as soon as he realizes that I am indeed going to try and finish cleaning before I play with him again, he goes back to pestering Prim. One thing that I've been working on lately is putting both of my arms around his neck in order to get his halter on. I haven't physically restrained him in a very long time, and I figured with him getting bigger that I might as well make sure he still remembers how to do that. After a little bit of wiggling around, he finally remembered exactly what he's supposed to do. I gave him a few scratches and let him go. Prim still has a pretty free-range parenting style where she just ignores his shenanigans. Since I am indeed a human and I don't want him jumping all over me, I do have a little bit more boundaries when we're interacting together. It's pretty hard to resist this little guy still, especially when he is on his very best behavior. It may take me 3 or 5 times as long to clean their stall these days, but I do end up getting some good miniature training sessions in with Bruce along the way. Over the last week or so, he has really started to gain a lot better control over his little body. While in the past he was kind of like a little tornado whirling around, now he has a lot more control and he is starting to look like a little show pony. He continues to be pretty outgoing about learning new things and investigating exactly what it is I'm doing in here. Today he was particularly interested in the ranger and was chewing on a few pieces on the other side of the fence. He also seemed to be pretty interested when I was cleaning and rinsing out their water tub. With all of the wind, I've been having to empty their bucket a few times a day just because it gets so much dirt in it from the wind blowing around. He was very interested in seeing the water that I dumped out and then learning how exactly more came to be inside his little bucket. He has seen me fill this up hundreds of times in the past, but every time it is like a little surprise for him. The bigger pen also put him a bit closer to Nigel, and I'll find him standing and staring at him throughout the day. Over the next couple of days, the wind is supposed to be more normal, so I decided to go ahead and bed their stall back with only shavings. The straw is really nice for foals when they're young because it keeps them clean and it's a nice fluffy bed for them. Bruce's umbilicus is like a little dried up piece of jerky, so there's a lot less risk of him getting some infection from hay or shavings sticking to it. Last time I tried all shavings, they were a little bit dusty, but with the bugs becoming more of a problem, I think it'll be better to have shavings versus straw. For some reason, the bugs just really love the straw and it's a little bit harder to keep clean. I can always switch back, but for now, these two are going to get shavings. Bruce was pretty excited to see me shake out all of the little plastic bags. He was not being very careful, and I'm not exactly sure what happened, but he took a wrong step and hurt his leg. I noticed it right away because he was holding it up in a rather pitiful fashion. These young horses can get catastrophic injuries just doing normal baby horse things. I would be absolutely devastated if Bruce got really hurt racing around. I think he probably must have just tweaked it because every time I tried to take a look at it, he skittered away. Bruce is a pretty darn smart horse for how old he is, and I think he's come to realize that if he comes up to me with a problem, I'll try and help him figure it out. After I was able to get a few good looks at his leg, I don't know if it stopped hurting him or he decided it wasn't such a big deal anymore, but he went back to playing around pretty quickly. It's always good to present these young horses with little brain games, and Bruce was particularly interested in the plastic wrappings from the shavings today. He's old enough and strong enough that I thought today would be the perfect day to let him investigate them a little bit further. Flapping plastic historically is very scary for horses, so if they have a chance to figure it out when they're very young, then in the future it's probably not going to be such a big deal. After Prim's approval, he got a little bit more aggressive with this plastic bag.
Good boy, Brucey. That's a very brave boy. Look at you. Hello, Brucey. Hello. No biting. No, sir.
It was really cool to see Bruce begin to unravel the mysteries of this plastic bag. Eventually, he got pretty brave about putting all of his feet on it and walking across it. He also was pretty interested in picking it up in his mouth and flapping it around to show me.
I'm just watching you.
When he started to get bored of playing with his new toy, he came over for a few scratches. I wanted to see if maybe he was interested in doing a few more scary things with this bag. He seemed to have a pretty good handle on how this crunchy plastic operated, but it's a whole different story when you go to touch them with it. Bruce wasn't too excited about it, so I thought he might need a little bit more playtime before we took this plastic bag training a bit further. This really isn't any different on how I introduce new things to the older horses. If you watched any of Sparkler's training, this is pretty similar to how I introduced the saddle pad to her when I was putting the surcingle on her. I feel like it's always beneficial to let horses explore these new items at their own pace so you don't overwhelm them. In the end, you get a horse that is confident and brave around new things instead of one that is either shut down or completely terrified about the world around them. I'm really glad I got to spend a little bit of time with Bruce this evening because it does look like we are going to get so much more smoke blowing in. If you look off in the distance, you can see a line where it is a little bit darker, and that is just smoke blowing in from a few of the different fires that are very close. Currently, there is actually a fire burning on the land that Sparkler came from. I'm not really sure how the horses are affected at this point. I want to say it's only a few hundred acres. But in a drought year, any bit of forage that can be conserved is going to help the horses. At the end of Bruce's play session, I made sure to give him a few really good scratches and restrain him a few times so he got the understanding that he is supposed to stand still. Besides the first time, he didn't try and move at all. At this point in time, he is too big for me to manhandle around it all, so it's good that he still fully understands those concepts. He's not 100% sure about the halter yet, which is still totally fine. Even if we had to evacuate, he would follow Prim right onto the trailer, so I wouldn't even have to halter him in that instance. I don't think he's actually afraid of the halter itself, but the movements that are required to get it on his face. This is a pretty common way to get the halter on a horse for the first time, but it is one of my least favorites. I much prefer to have them stick their nose in the noseband and then reach around to put it on their head. Horses that are really reactive, like Mustangs, and horses that may have been abused in the past, reaching your arms around their neck does tend to scare them a little bit more than a normal horse. Bruce had a relatively normal reaction and I don't want it to escalate, so I'm going to let him go back and play with his plastic bag some more. While it is important that he eventually gets the halter on his face, I'm not going to let it ruin our whole session for the day. If I were to push the issue and struggle and get the halter on him, there's a pretty good chance that he would find it rather unpleasant, and then every time in the future when I go to catch him, it would be a struggle. It is actually something that Prim was very bad at when I first got her. She was raised on the range, so she wasn't caught a lot as a very young horse. I don't know that she was handled very much at all either, so now when you go to catch her, it is a big what to do sometimes. When you have a horse that runs away as soon as you go to halter them, it always makes me a bit suspicious on how they were trained in the very, very beginning. In the Western horse world, at least, it is pretty typical to just rope a horse, slap a halter on them, and then hard tie them right away and let them figure it out. That is something that can have really severe repercussions on their future training and also on their physical growth. Young foals like Bruce are extremely sensitive, and if I were to rope him, put a halter on, and tie him up and let him pull back while hard tied, there's a good chance that he would do permanent damage. I'm still on the hunt for a little friend for Bruce. I would very much prefer to get another horse from a reputable breeder. Unfortunately, a lot of people still halter break their young horses in this way, and that is something that I would rather not invest in. I would much prefer a horse that has never ever been haltered or handled than one that has been roped and hard tied. If I do buy Bruce another little friend, they probably won't be coming to stay until they're weaned at around 6 months, so it'll be around September or October. Bruce has proven to be really brave around the full-sized horses, so I don't think that it would be unreasonable to let him be friends with Stewie. Here recently, Ziggy has gotten a bit more aggressive around Bruce, and both him and Scarlett have gotten into kicking matches. I was really hoping that Ziggy could be a good friend for Bruce, but I think that he may be a bit too aggressive. Young foals like Bruce can get hurt very easily accidentally by a horse like Ziggy who's being too aggressive. Even though Stewie does play around a lot, he is pretty careful around young horses. Here lately, Ziggy has definitely been acting more like a stallion than I would like.
So cute, Brucey. So cute.
We did get an update on our well, and we should start drilling here in a week. I'm pretty excited because once the well is drilled, I can start laying out the horses' permanent pens and where the other water lines are going to go. I should also be able to start planning the watering system for my new garden. We've had a few pretty major setbacks so far, but I feel like now everything is starting to fall into place. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.